A glimpse of hope. The Catholic priest kidnapped in March is seen in a new video posted online.
I need your help.
Who he's asking for help. Foundation investigation. Why New York's Attorney General won't let President-elect Donald Trump shut down his charity. Lauren Ashburn's one-on-one interview with Apostolic Nuncio Christoph Pierre about his Vatican job and how he says Pope Francis is able to connect to the world. And carols are an important way to spread the joy of the Christmas season. But how did caroling start? We'll learn the history behind the songs on EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, December 27th, 2016.
Because I was working for the Christian religion in the church, I was kidnapped.
Newly released video appears to show a priest kidnapped in Yemen. Good evening from Washington, D.C., and thank you to those joining us from around the world. I'm Wyatt Goolsby in for Lauren Ashburn. Father Tom Usanali's fate has been a mystery for months. Jason Calvi says this new video was posted on Christmas Eve, but authorities don't know for sure where or when it was shot.
I'm very much depressed. My health is deteriorating.
This is the first we've heard from Father Tom Usanali since he was kidnapped in Yemen back in March. That's according to our partners at Catholic News Agency.
I request also my fellow Christians in India, the bishops and priests, to do their might to help me get released.
The Catholic Church in Southern Arabia admits the features of the person speaking in the video bear a close likeness to Father Tom. However, the source of the video, the date of its creation, and the circumstances under which it was recorded are unknown. On March 4th, terrorists kidnapped the priest when they raided a home for seniors run by Mother Teresa's sisters. The terrorists killed these 4 sisters and 12 others.
It's very dangerous and full of fear for the Christians.
The bishop overseeing Southern Arabia praised the priest in an interview with us days after the kidnapping.
He was looking after this small community, especially after the sisters, and he did it in a wonderful way. So he has, I would say, sacrificed his life, even if he is coming out alive.
In the newly released video, we hear the kidnapping victim beg for papal help.
Dear Pope Francis, dear Holy Father, as a father, please take care of my life.
Pope Francis called for Father Tom's release in April. Now in December, we hear the priest's own labored voice echoing that call.
I need your help.
The Catholic Church in Southern Arabia says it has made countless appeals to get Father Tom released, and the bishop prayed for him during midnight mass on Christmas. They encourage everyone else to pray for him too. 21 Chibok schoolgirls are celebrating being at home after more than 2 years of captivity. Last week, the girls sang Christian hymns while waiting to be reunited with their families. The girls returned to Chibok, Nigeria on Christmas Eve, but were held at a legislator's house. The 21 girls were freed in October following negotiations with Boko Haram. About 200 girls remain captive. April will mark 3 years since they were kidnapped. President-elect Donald Trump today announces his selection of Thomas Bossert to serve as assistant to the president for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism. Bossert is currently a cyber risk fellow with the Atlantic Council, which is a think tank in the field of international affairs. He will advise Trump on issues related to homeland security, counterterrorism, and cybersecurity, a role that in the Obama administration was filled by Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes. Bossert will work independently alongside National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn. Bossert previously served in the White House as Deputy Homeland Security Advisor to President George W. Bush. New York's Attorney General won't let Trump close down his Charitable Foundation, highlighting what could be a thorny issue for Trump's incoming administration. After the president-elect's announcement that he will end the Trump Charitable Foundation, New York's Attorney General saying, not so fast. The Trump Foundation is still under investigation by this office and cannot legally dissolve until that investigation is complete.
Our message to
New York AG Eric Schneiderman, who was a Hillary Clinton supporter, launched the probe in the midst of the campaign amid allegation Donald Trump used the foundation's funds to settle his personal business dealings. Trump making no mention of the order to stop fundraising issued by the AG in October that is still in effect, only saying the foundation has done enormous good works over the years in contributing millions of dollars to countless worthy groups. However, to avoid even the appearance of any conflict with my role as president, I have decided to continue to pursue my strong interest in philanthropy in other ways. But Donald Trump hasn't even donated to his own charity since 2008, according to the foundation's tax records. The Democratic National Committee mocking plans to shut the foundation down, saying the announcement is a wilted fig leaf to cover up his remaining conflicts of interest and his pitiful record of charitable giving. President George W. Bush's chief ethics lawyer says closing the foundation is a good start.
Right now, we need to have a president who is free of conflict of interest. That means dissolving the foundation. That also means President Trump selling off his business interests that create conflicts of interest, making sure there's no foreign government money coming into his operations.
The Trump team has already dealt with several issues, settling the Trump University lawsuit, Eric Trump shutting down his foundation, and the Trump Organization recently dropped its battle with hotel workers in Las Vegas and D.C. over unionization, allowing the D.C. workers to hold a vote and agreeing to a 4-year contract with Vegas workers. But still no roadmap on how the president-elect will disentangle himself from his worldwide business empire. Trump tweeted last night that unlike most foundations, his never paid rent, salaries, or any expenses, and all the money was given to charity. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. A sad day for Hollywood. Actress Carrie Fisher is dead at the age of 60. She had been in the hospital since Friday after suffering a heart attack on board a flight to Los Angeles. Fisher made her film debut in the 1975 Shampoo alongside Warren Beatty, but she's best known for her role as Princess Leia in the original Star Wars. She's survived by her daughter, brother, and mother, actress Debbie Reynolds. Russian investigators say they have found the flight recorder from this weekend's deadly plane crash in the Black Sea. The box was found a mile from shore this morning. All 92 people, including dozens of singers from Russia's world-famous military choir, are believed to have died. It's not clear what caused the crash. Pope Francis asked for prayers for the victims of the military plane crash. Speaking to thousands in St. Peter's Square yesterday, the Holy Father expressed his strong condolences to the Russian people. President Obama and Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visit the Pearl Harbor Memorial today. The stop is just part of Abe's visit to Hawaii. He visited several memorial sites Monday before today's trip to the USS Arizona Memorial. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor killed 2,400 U.S. servicemen and civilians. Abe becomes the first sitting Japanese prime minister to visit the site. The Israeli government is doubling down on its public break with the Obama administration. Israel says it has information that Washington actively helped craft last week's UN resolution, which declared Israeli settlements illegal.
It's a resolution which denies the fact that there is Israeli sovereignty over the Western Wall, one of our holiest sites, that Jews have prayed to for literally thousands of years. And this resolution actually calls that occupied Palestinian territory. That's outrageous. That is shameful.
The U.S. usually protects Israel from international censure, but it abstained from Friday's vote, which allowed the resolution to pass. For the first time in 200 years, a menorah will be displayed in a prominent area at the University of Alabama. Joining us now is Bridget Leopard with Beckett Law, formerly the Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty. So, Bridget, you recently worked on a case in Alabama involving a menorah on a college campus. Tell us about that case.
Sure. Well, for your viewers that don't know, Beckett Law is a nonprofit public interest law firm, and we defend religious liberty for people of all faiths. We like to say from A to Z, from Anglicans to Zoroastrians, and including members of the Jewish community. And over the past couple months, we had the opportunity to work with a Jewish student group at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. We had the opportunity to work with them and to ensure that for the first time in 200 years, years. A menorah is going to be placed in a prominent location on the campus, and they're actually going to be having a menorah lighting ceremony on the 29th of December. And what a beautiful example of how religious liberty and diversity can be not only embraced on a college campus, but all over this country.
Why is it so important that different symbols from different religions are there side by side?
We like to say that if one person's religious liberty can be threatened, all of our religious liberty can be threatened. If one group can be silenced, we all can be silenced. And thinking of the University of Alabama, every year they have a Christmas tree in the center of campus to celebrate Christmas. And this student group said, look, let's celebrate the rich faith traditions that we have here on campus. And as a complement to the Christmas tree, let's have this menorah. And, it's a great example of showing that religious liberty and diversity can be celebrated throughout the year, but also at the most wonderful time of year.
Well, this sort of transitions next to my next question, because how can people of faith of different religions kind of work together to support each other's religious liberty?
Yeah, well, I think it's safe to say that 2016 was a year of a lot of change, and it might be easy to become complacent and sit back and think that religious liberty will be fine, nothing to worry about. But now more than ever, we have to double down and defend our first freedom. And at Beckett, looking at a case, we represent the Little Sisters of the Poor, and regulations targeting their religious liberty, there are regulations like that on the books all over this country. And again, now more than ever, it's time to double down, defend our first freedom. And if your viewers are looking for information where they can find religious liberty cases, I would direct them to beckettfund.org or look for Beckett Law on Facebook if they're looking for current religious liberty cases.
It's interesting, Bridget, because your family in particular has a history of religious diversity. Your grandfather was Jewish from the Czech Republic, fled during World War II. How has that impacted your views on religious liberty?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, they're from the Czech Republic and fled because they were Jewish, and by way of Venezuela were able to come to the United States, where we have religious freedom, and they were able to live out their faith freely. And that freedom actually led my father to become Catholic. He's now a Catholic deacon in the Diocese of Birmingham. So just seeing the opportunity that they had to come here where we have freedom really inspired me that, religious freedom is for all of us, and we should all have the opportunity to live out our faith in the public square.
One last question. Your mother was a nurse and administered to Mother Angelica while she was dying. How did that sort of impact Mother Angelica had on her?
Well, yeah, my mom is a nurse, and she had the opportunity to be one of the nurses with Mother in the final weeks that she was with us. And when I talked to my mom about that experience, she wells up with tears because it was such a moving experience for her and a huge blessing in her life that I know she really, really took to heart.
Pretty incredible, pretty incredible. Well, it's always nice to talk with folks from Beckett Law. Bridget Leopard, Beckett Law, thanks so much for talking with us.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, Lauren Ashburn's conversation with Archbishop Christoph Pierre, how the Vatican's ambassador to the United States defines his work. Plus, celebrating the Christmas octave, Dr. Chad Pecknold on the 8-day period, which includes the Feast of the Holy Family. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth. We have beheld his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father. A reminder of why we celebrate the birth of Christ from St. John the Evangelist on this, his feast day. The Pope's ambassador to the United States says Francis connects with people across the globe. Earlier this month, Lauren Ashburn sat down with Archbishop Christoph Pierre.
I am not sure that many people know what an apostolic nuncio is. Can you explain that for us?
Well, essentially, the nuncio is the Pope's representative. You know how works the Catholic Church. The Pope is the successor of the Apostle Peter, and he has received the mission to lead the Church, to unite the Church, and to help all the churches spread all over the world to remain in unity. This is, I believe, one of the beauty of the Catholic Church.
You have been chosen by Pope Francis, and his visit here was a huge success.
Yes.
Americans, not just American Catholics,
Yes.
embraced him,
Yes.
and many were inspired by him. Why do you think Americans feel such admiration for him?
I have had a lot of exposure to the Holy Father. I've lived with them, and I've also seen the reaction of the people towards him, especially during these 5 days in Mexico last year. I think the people feel that the Pope is accessible, but also the Pope speaks in a simple way of Jesus. is a disciple of Jesus. This is what I have perceived. And what he says go through the hearts of the people. And actually, if there is a reform for the church, and the Pope, I think, once invites us to make such reform, is to be near the people and to offer them, in a very simple way, the values of the gospel. The contact with the Pope, his words, his attitudes, are really an invitation for a better life, a life which has a true meaning.
Will you mimic the Pope in being accessible to people?
When I speak to people, I speak about the Pope, but also the message of the Pope, which is the message of the Catholic Church. It is not just the message of one person. Basically, I think I'm trying to be a faithful representative of the Pope, and it works actually.
How does it work?
Well, I don't know. I think each one of us, we have our own charism, I suppose. But basically, what I am a priest, I am a bishop, and I've been called by the Vatican, by the various popes to represent them. So I am trying my best.
We'll have more of that conversation tomorrow as Archbishop Pierre explains where the White House and the Vatican can find common ground.
Religious liberty, values, the human values.
Of life.
Human life. Human life is of paramount importance for us,
And be sure to watch all this week right here on EWTN News Nightly to see all of that interview with the Archbishop. For most Americans, the celebration of Christmas is a one-day occasion. For Catholics, the Nativity of the Lord is followed by 7 feast days that help us to understand why God became man. Dr. Chad Pecknold, Associate Professor at the Catholic University of America, joins us now. So Chad, what is the Christmas octave and how does it help us sort of experience the Christmas season more fully?
Octaves are a special kind of week in the church in which we're invited to participate in the mysteries of the faith. And of course, Christmas is the mystery of the nativity of our Lord.
So how then does it help us prepare us for spreading the Word of God?
Well, it forms us. It forms us in the faith. You notice that in the Christmas octave, we continually celebrate other feasts as well. The feasts of St. Stephen, the first martyr, the feast of St. John the Evangelist, of the Holy Innocents, and of the Holy Family itself. We're continually being taken into the mysteries of the faith that we're moved towards the spread of the gospel of Christ redeeming humanity.
You mentioned St. Stephen, and of course, the first day after Christmas is his feast day as well. Let's dive a little bit more into that. What is the importance of St. Stephen the Martyr's feast day, and how do you think it's even more significant today, noting the fact that there are Christians being persecuted worldwide?
Well, martyr just means witness, and Christmas itself is this joyful witness to the world. And then here on the next day, we're asked to remember the joyful witness of Stephen, the first of the disciples to bear witness to Christ's sacrifice. Why is Christ's sacrifice being celebrated in his martyrdom the next day? Because, in a sense, the incarnation takes up all the joys and fears and sorrows of the world and points it back to its proper end and praise of God. And so the stoning of Stephen the next day reminds us of all the martyrs throughout the world, including today, who continually bear witness through their suffering to the suffering of Christ, who alone makes us happy again.
And like I say, we're seeing so much of that with Christians in the Middle East right now. Friday is another important day because it's the Feast of the Holy Family. So how can we, I guess, as individual families, but also us as a general family of the Catholic Church, learn by the example set by Mary, Joseph, and Jesus?
Yeah, Christmas can be a difficult time for families, and we're propelled throughout the Christmas octave from Stephen to St. John the Evangelist, spreading the gospel to the Holy Innocents, which we remember in all those who are innocent and die. But then the Feast of the Holy Family leads us towards the celebration of the solemnity of Mary, Mother of God, and in whom we can find the Holy Family. The Holy Family is a great strength for our families in all the troubles and trials and all the joys and sorrows that we experience today.
Important lessons and a lot of important feast days coming up. Dr. Chad Pecknold, Associate Professor at the Catholic University of America. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Up next, the Holy Father's Christmas wish for Christians around the world and the history of caroling, the reason carols are part of our Christmas celebration. Pope Francis sends his wish of Christmas peace for people scarred by wars.
Fino alla suprema prova del martirio. Dicto frutto ventris tui, Jesus.
During his annual Christmas message, Pope Francis says terrorism is causing fear and death in many cities and countries. The Holy Father pressed the international community for a solution to conflicts and urged Israelis and Palestinians to abandon hate. Christians in Aleppo, Syria are praying for peace in their war-torn city. Churchgoers filled St. Elias Cathedral for Christmas Day Mass Sunday, the first time for many to attend Mass in the city since fighting between rebels and the government broke out 4 years ago. They say the birth of Christ is a sign of hope for their country. Syrian President Bashar Assad made it a point to be seen visiting a Christian orphanage on Christmas Day. This video posted on the president's Facebook page showed Assad and his wife meeting nuns and orphans in a Damascus suburb. Christians are one of the country's largest religious minorities at 10%. Many have tried not to take sides in the Syrian civil war, but the opposition's support of radical Islam has led many Christians to support Assad's government. Christmas celebrations didn't just take place here on Earth.
We're going to eat very well up here at Christmas, and of course we're all going to miss our family members and wish we could be with them, but we're going to have a great time up here.
Astronauts sent a cheerful Christmas message from the International Space Station, 225 miles above the Earth. The mission commander said the team would take time to reflect on what the season means to them. For many people, Christmas carols are an important way to spread the joy of the season. The story of Christ's birth more than 2,000 years ago has been told through songs sung in multiple languages across the globe. This music comes from the Christmas Mass at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. Timothy McDonald, director of the Institute of Sacred Music at the Catholic University, joins us now. Tim, when did carols become part of the Christmas celebration?
Christmas carols became a part of the world's observance of Christmas really in the 15th century. So we're talking the Middle Ages, and so it was mostly an English tradition.
And so does the practice of caroling have its roots then specifically in Christmas, or does it have roots in other traditions as well?
Interestingly, Christmas carols are one of a number of genres of carols that really are also mark other occasions. For instance, Corpus Christi, or even Passiontide. There were carol traditions that were attached to those holidays as well. For whatever reason, Christmas carols have sort of stood the test of time, and they remain the one body of carols that are still sung and celebrated.
So then, are carols a uniquely Western tradition then, or is it kind of, obviously singing songs are present all over the world, but is caroling something that's spread or elsewhere?
Well, Christmas carols obviously have grown up even in Asia and Africa since Christian missionaries have gone to those places, but primarily the idea of Christmas carols are a Western European tradition. They centered largely in England, but also in France, and then also in Spain as well. There's a large repertoire of specifically Christmas music, yes.
Anything specific in the Eastern Rite?
There's a large repertoire of choral music in the Eastern churches, but because the choral music is the only kind of music they have in the Eastern liturgies to a large extent, there's not much instrumental music or organ. The liturgy is the place where those musics reside. The carols, on the other hand, are more of a social reflection of the liturgical celebration. So they extend the celebration into the living room, into the banquet hall, into the court.
Okay, so one last question then, because I want to specify the difference. The difference between Christmas carols and just hymns, or Christmas hymns?
That's a great question, because hymns, of course, some hymns some Christmas carols are hymns.
Right.
And those, of course, are always a sacred text, something like Silent Night or the First Noel. But many Christmas carols are purely celebratory, as things like the Boar's Head Carol, or even more commonly, Deck the Halls. There's no real allusion to the birth of Christ in those songs, yet they are part and parcel of the celebratory climate and nature of the feast throughout the world.
Timothy McDonald, Director of the Institute of Sacred Music at the Catholic University of America. Thanks so much for your insight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And for all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, to all of you around the world, I'm Wyatt Goolsby. We'll see you back here again tomorrow. Good night and God bless.